When you look at the landscape of classic rock, filled with wild frontmen, leather jackets, and stories of chaos on the road, Randy Bachman stands out like a quiet giant who never fully fit the stereotype. He wasn't the loudest, he wasn't the flashiest, and he certainly wasn't the typical image of a rock god. Yet against all odds, this shy Canadian kid from Winnipeg rose to the top of the music world twice. First with the Guess Who, and again with Bachman-Turner Overdrive. His story is one of discipline, innocence, and in many ways, a determination that seemed completely out of place in the unpredictable world of rock and roll. Today on Legends Uncovered, we explore how Randy Bachman became one of the most unlikely superstars the genre has ever known. Randy Bachman's journey began in a household where structure mattered and hard work was woven into the family identity. He wasn't the rebellious teen the world expects from future rock icons. He didn't sneak out at night, didn't wreck cars, didn't dive into trouble. Instead, he spent countless hours sitting in his room practicing the guitar, patiently, methodically, almost scientifically. While others were chasing chaos, Randy was chasing perfection, and that obsession with craft is what eventually set him apart. It wasn't attitude that made him dangerous. It was talent so sharp and disciplined that nobody around him could ignore it. But even with extraordinary skill, Randy didn't fit the usual mold. He didn't drink, didn't party, and didn't care about being a celebrity. In the early days with the Guess Who, he was surrounded by musicians who embraced the rock lifestyle, and Randy looked like the odd man out. Yet when the band stepped into the studio or onto the stage, he transformed. His riffs were razor clean, his timing flawless, and his sense of melody matched the best in the business. His personality wasn't loud, but his guitar spoke volumes. It was this contrast, the quiet kid delivering thunder on stage, that started to build the legend. The breakthrough came when Randy helped push the Guess Who into international territory. Songs like American Woman didn't just climb charts, they shook the musical world. But fame came with pressure, and the chaos surrounding the band clashed with Randy's structured way of life. Soon the environment became impossible for him to survive in. Most rock stars would simply dive deeper into the madness. Randy did the opposite. He walked away from a band at its peak. It was a decision that shocked fans and even confused the industry. Who quits fame when it's just beginning? Only someone who never believed in the rock star image in the first place. Starting over could have been the end of his story, but it wasn't. Randy Bachman did something almost no musician ever pulls off. He created a second empire. Bachman-Turner Overdrive was never supposed to be a phenomenon. It was a simple project, built from the ground up with no guarantee of success. Yet once again, Randy's disciplined approach and razor-sharp instincts turned the impossible into reality. Taking care of business, roll on down the highway, you ain't seen nothing yet. These weren't just hits, they became anthems carved into rock history. And the irony was unmistakable. The man who didn't drink, didn't party, and didn't fit in with the rebellious rock star culture had created some of the loudest, most hard-driving music of the 1970s. What makes Randy Bachman's rise even more unusual is his personality. Most rock legends have a mythic aura, some mix of chaos and charisma. Randy's myth is the opposite: honesty, humility, and family values. While bands around him were falling apart, Randy stayed centered. He didn't chase scandals or headlines. He chased craft, constantly improving, constantly learning. In a world driven by ego, he succeeded because he didn't have one. And that's what makes his story so powerful. Even as the music world changed, Randy never disappeared. He reinvented himself as a storyteller, radio host, and musical historian. Fans discovered that behind the riffs was a brilliant memory, a deep love for the craft, and an endless supply of stories from decades on the road. When he played live, the sound was still unmistakably Randy Bachman, clean, precise, and full of force. The unlikely rock star had longevity that outlasted many wilder musicians of his generation. Today, Randy Bachman stands not just as a legend, but as proof that rock and roll isn't defined by chaos, appearance, or reputation. It is defined by the heart and hands of the musician. And Randy's heart was always steady, always purposeful, always locked onto the music itself. He may have looked like the last person you'd expect to conquer the rock world, but his discipline, his talent, and his unwavering drive made him unstoppable. In the end, Randy Bachman's story teaches us something rare. Sometimes the quiet ones leave the loudest mark. Sometimes the person who doesn't fit the mold changes the mold entirely, and sometimes the most unlikely rock star becomes one of the most unforgettable. This is Legends Uncovered.